Hello all, welcome to Module 2 System Programming and Part 5 Threading and Queues of the Security Tube Python Scripting Expert course and certification. So in this video, what we will look at is using the threading module in Python along with queues, how to go ahead and create task queues where we can post jobs, threads can receive those tasks or jobs, execute them, inform the queue that the task has been done, and then finally, once all the tasks are executed, the program exits. So let's go to our terminal. Now in this case there is quite a bit of code to type in. So let me take this little template and then paste in small parts and explain what they do. Let's call this queue.py. Now the first part of course is something extremely common. What we are doing is we have three modules which we are importing. Threading, remember, not thread. The last one was what we were using in that context. This is a different module. Then the queue module and then time. Now, in order to go ahead and create a task queue, we call the queue method, which goes ahead and gives us a new queue. Now, as you can imagine, there has to be a worker class which fetches tasks from this queue and executes them. So how would you go ahead and define that? Now with the threading module, you need to go ahead and create a subclass, and we've created one called worker thread. Copy this, which is basically a subclass of threading.thread. Now, in this, the constructor basically takes in an input, which is the queue from where we are going to fetch our tasks or jobs. All this does is calls the parent and then just go ahead and assigns this to the internal queue variable. So now let me copy this function as well, as there is nothing much here. Now the next part is that you need to go ahead and create a run method, which is what will be called to run this worker thread. Now inside this, we basically first print in worker thread, and then we go into a loop where we fetch a value from the queue which was passed to us. Now these values or arguments will be posted in the queue by us, and I'll show you how to do it in a bit. So in the worker thread, we fetch this argument called counter, and all we need to do is print that we've been ordered to sleep for that many number of seconds, and we call time.sleep, and then after we wake up, we basically say, hey, we finished sleeping, and also post a task done back to the queue. Right? Fantastic, right? Nothing could be better than getting a job where all you have to do is sleep, get up, and then inform that you slept. But at least I'd love such a job. Okay, so let me go ahead, paste this here. Now, let's go back to the bottom part. Now, what we want to do is create a bunch of worker threads, right? And this is where we go into a loop, create a worker thread of basically type worker thread, make it a daemon, and then start the worker thread. Very simple. Let's just copy it, paste it here. Right? Ideally, you would want to paste this before anything else. So it doesn't really matter in this context, but okay, coming back. So now we have our worker threads, we have this little loop where we create all these worker threads. So the big question where are we going to post the tasks and how. So this is where the queue which we had created first and which we also passed in as an argument comes in, right? What we do is we create input and then we put that input, which are those numbers between 1 and 10, insert it inside the queue, and then we basically call queue.join to wait for the task queue to be completely empty. Once that happens, we basically print all tasks are over. That's it. So let's copy this part, paste it here. And what I'd like you to really sink in is, I always like to explain with easy to understand examples, but basically you could have written anything inside this run method, right? You could have a distributed port scanner, a password cracking tool, whatnot. So keep that in mind. Even though the example is simple, what you can apply it to is just up to your imagination. Right, so here you go. We have this whole file. Now let's go ahead and execute this. And if you notice, it basically now all the threads are coming back from their slumber. Right, it says finish sleeping, blah blah blah, all tasks are over, and it exits. Fantastic. Right, let's run that once again. The threads were all created here, and all of them got ordered to sleep for varying number of seconds. And after that, what is happening is the tasks completed and we've exited. Fantastic. So as you can clearly see, there are a ton of things which we can do using threading. Now here is an exercise I want you to try out. Create a list of publicly available FTP websites where probably you can do anonymous login, and then create a worker queue and thread similar to what we've done, where the worker thread now logs into the FTP site and lists the root directory and just exits, or job done. Now to do this, use at least 10 FTP sites and create 5 threads for the job. Here is the second exercise. Now, when you're using threads, you can also use something called locks. Look at the Python programming manual and then figure out how you can create a locking mechanism for shared resources. Create any sample code you'd like to illustrate this concept. Finally, the last exercise, multiprocessing. Now, multiprocessing module allows you to leverage multi-core processors and all of that, and increases your efficiency like anything. This probably would be one of the modules I'd use if I wanted to crack passwords on probably multi-core machines. So research on this. The Python manual has tons of examples, and create a TCP SYN scanner using this by probably dividing the port subspace. So that's all for this video. If you have any questions, please post them in the student forums and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much and have a great day ahead.